Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest Hedera virtual meetup. This is the, I think, fourth episode of our MVP Spotlight series, and I'm incredibly excited today to be joined by Pablo, Jason, and Andrew Antar. I think we're going to just hang out for a few minutes while people join the live stream, have an opportunity to find the right links and maybe get situated. But in the meantime, if you have any questions for myself, Pablo, Jason, or Andrew, please put them in the YouTube chat and we'll have them asked throughout this conversation. Pablo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
I'm sure you're a familiar face for most of the community, so it's great to have you on the live stream. Andrew, I haven't had a chance to talk to you in a while. How have you been? Maybe Andrew's doing well. Maybe we don't know.
Hey, sorry, it says my internet connection is slow, so I was wondering if you asked me something. Can you hear me?
No worries. Yeah. I was just wondering how you've been. We haven't chatted in a while.
Yeah, I've been good. So far, so good. We launched the new token on mainnet with the sharded smart contracts, and we did a big site update for Tune.fm, and we put out some press releases and did some marketing, and now we're going out and raising our next round of funding. So mainly working on that, and yeah, working with you guys on something as well. So.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure we'll dive into all of that fun stuff throughout the live stream. That's great to hear. Very exciting. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Keeping busy. Day job keeps me busy. Night job, working on the SDK keeps me busy. It's a fun time. I'm excited.
I really like this .NET BugBytes custom Hashgraph background that you have going on there. It's fancy.
Thank you. Everybody always uses backgrounds. I thought everybody would have their own this time around, so I had to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak.
Yeah. I think for anyone curious, my green screen, I did not have time to assemble it before this live stream, so that's why I'm not rocking the virtual background. Jason, hope you don't feel left out.
That's okay. I'm used to being the black sheep in the family sometimes.
I also wanted to showcase my nice Halloween guys over here because it's October. So we're giving everyone just a few minutes to join the YouTube chat here. If you have any questions, put them in there and we'll ask them in real time. But just wait probably 1 or 2 more minutes before we get started and dive into our questions to find out what all these guys are up to.
Cooper, that little ghost reminds me of Pac-Man just a little bit. It's kind of cute.
It is kind of cute. Thank you. I appreciate that.
What are those called?
Cool. Well, it seems like we have plenty of people here on the live stream. Hopefully everyone can still hear me all right.
I think Cooper came back.
I did get booted from the Zoom really quickly, which is unfortunate.
Nice.
But I was just going to say, we have people in the live stream chat already. I think people know that if they have questions for you, they can ask them in there. But to kick us off, Jason, how about you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell the people a little bit about you.
Okay, well, I'm Jason Fabritz. I am an independent consultant. I go by the handle BugBytes, which is the name of my company. It's been around since 1995, I believe, when I set it up as a company to help disseminate a groundwater modeling program. So my background goes all the way back to civil engineering, and I did a mathematical model and did it. Of course, you had to run. It was written in C++, and kind of back in the day when the computers were new, and so I've kind of fell into the field of programming. So over the years, I've moved away from the civil engineering. I've had the advantage of being able to work for some major. Oh, there went Cooper again. Anyway, to speed up, I've had the advantage of working for a number of organizations over the years, from academics to the government to private industry, and so it's kind of a fun time. Seen a lot. I did miss the Bitcoin thing, and so that's kind of how I actually landed here with Hedera, because when I wanted to find out more about Bitcoin, I think like many of us, I looked at the secrets of, Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney. I've met a number of people that were first introduced to the Hashgraph algorithm through one of his videos, and that was before Hedera. So I remember I got hooked on the math geek part of it way back. That would have been 2017 or 2000 or late, and so I had the privilege of actually being on the mailing list when they had the big reveal party in New York. So I took a train up there and had the privilege of being in the room and seeing it all at genesis of all this. And as they say, the rest has been history.
Wow, that is really cool. I do feel like that Mike Maloney Hidden Secrets of Money is one of the most common origin stories in the Hedera community. But I'm also extremely jealous that you were able to be there in New York. I think it's at like the PlayStation Center or whatever they want to call it, when they had kind of the grand unveiling of Hedera. So that's really, really cool. I'm sure we can dive more into what you're currently up to throughout this live stream, but I feel like that's a great job setting the stage for this conversation. Pablo, what about you? I feel like most people in the community already kind of know you. But for those who don't already know you and aren't already familiar with all the cool things that you do, could you tell them a little bit about you?
Sure. So I'm Pablo. I'm from Chile. I speak Spanish. And yeah, I've been in the US for about now 11 years. You could say I'm a bit of an entrepreneur. I've been coding since 13, contracting jobs for a very long time now. 25, if anyone's wondering. And yeah, I started messing with crypto in 2014, 2015, as I was doing one of my first real startups. I say real startup because that's when I got my green card, so I could really do a startup. And yeah, I saw the potential just in this idea of money being held and not have to have a database or something to completely trust. But I didn't really tap into it. I had some Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin through Coinbase and some very sketchy, I believe there's a coin, the New Zealand token marketplace that recently got shut down. It wasn't shut down back then, so that was fine. But yeah, that's when I started messing with crypto, and I really dove deep in 2017 when I met some guys in Consensus. Back then it was like a tiny place. The guys in Infura, which run all the billions of transactions a day, they were just two people running that team. And Uport was the biggest part of Consensus, and they had this project called Grid Plus that was really interesting. And they kept talking about electricity trading and how you could basically provide the market from the retail energy providers to users via an ERC20 token. So they simply acted as a counterparty for all the tokens. So if you redeem the token, you were actually redeeming electricity through their platform. And this project became known as, it started as Energy Web or Grid Plus Energy, Consensus Energy, and then became Grid Plus. And it's awesome, it really shone on the idea of holding electricity or crypto at your house. So instead of having something on your phone or a ledger like most people do, you have this device, a hardware-backed device that stays at your house, and it's sort of your vault that's branded to an address, which really provides more identity mechanisms in the future. And yeah, that's when I really got into the crypto space, just learning how to build on all these different platforms. Won quite a few hackathons thanks to Uport's demo. So that's how I basically understood a lot of how you could set up a distributed or decentralized identity protocol. And yeah, after that, I heard about Hedera in DEF CON 3 in Cancun. And it was interesting. Everyone was trying to get an answer out of Vitalik. What do you think of Hedera? What do you think of Hedera? And he was very quiet about it. He just said that he wants to see it in action. He wants to see the consensus protocol happening, working in a distributed way, not just in a testing environment with one device, but many computers across multiple types of latencies. That was great to learn from that. And yeah, I mean, now working in Hedera, I've been trying to replicate a lot of what I've seen in Ethereum that's helped it make it grow, the importance of the community and whatnot. That's where we see all the different tool sets that we've created. You can check them out at hashingsystems.com, but they range from web-based wallets that connect to your Chrome that provide Hedera accounts to Hashim service, which is a domain name, which is really a routing mechanism for your applications, and everything in between. So we have a deployer application that does deploying and allows you to really tinker around with different things within Hedera with a graphic interface. So really playing up the idea of a sandbox. So you don't have to code to learn how to use smart contracts. You just type up the smart contract. No need to know a bunch of different languages and the ideas behind it to get it started. So that's a little bit of what we do, but we can dive deeper later.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I knew you used to work at Consensus, but that kind of origin story and people wanting to hear from Vitalik is super interesting, especially since probably one of the most exciting things for Hedera that has happened in the recent months is that the Hashgraph platform has been made available for open review.
Mm-hmm.
So now that people can dive into that, see the actual code base, run it themselves, deploy it to a network if they wanted to test it out and make sure that it works properly, is super interesting. So it's great to hear what brought you to the community and some of the things that you're building. We'll definitely dive into what you're currently focused on, what you're excited about, all those fun things later on in the stream. Last but certainly not least, we're joined by Andrew Antar, the CEO and co-founder of TuneFM. Andrew, what were you doing before Hedera? Could you give us a little bit of insight into your origin story?
Sure. Can you hear me all right? All right. So I guess before Hedera, I was sort of getting into the tech startup space, really starting in college. I started the Brown Venture Lab, which is the first startup accelerator at Brown. And I felt like there was a lot of entrepreneurs and people who were oriented in a similar way and techies, but people building things, but there was no formalized program. So I sort of got into that, and there was a $100,000 fund. And even though I helped sort of put the program together, I was like, oh, well, I have a startup called Hero.fm. I want to enter my startup into this program because I want some of these grant funds as well. And so basically, I recused from the decision board, whoever was deciding who got in. And so then we were part of the first cohort. That was sort of the first time it became like, okay, we're working on a real project now. Because before that, it was just sort of a couple friends of mine. Some were developers, some are musicians. We basically started this thing called Musicians at Brown. And it was to connect all the musicians with each other so we could collaborate, jam, create music. Because nobody's walking around like it's a conference with their name tag, with the pin or whatever ribbon of what instrument they're playing or whether they want to join a band. It's not exactly easy unless you talk to everybody individually. But one common thing I found is that almost everyone who I met was somehow a virtuosic musician, whether it's classical or jazz or any genre, and some multi-instrumentalists. And so I was really inspired by that. And as a classically trained violinist, I really wanted to join a band and jam with other people and just have a good time. And around that time was when Facebook was sort of huge. Facebook movie came out around that same time, and the whole move out to the Silicon Valley and, raise $10 million in 6 months and, become Mark Zuckerberg. It was a very attractive idea, right? I mean, there's many flavors of that, of course. Snapchat was just getting started at the time. Instagram was still like really niche. Wasn't part of Facebook. So anyway, we're like, well, we're doing this at Startup Accelerator. I didn't want to go the traditional like investment banking, law school, doctor route that virtually everyone I knew was going. I wanted to sort of be the rebel and move out west. So after the accelerator, decided we found a house online and rented it for the summer in the Bay Area, near the airport, actually, San Bruno. And we're like, this is going to be our hacker house. So we, me, my brother, a few of my friends who were engineers and developers, and some other sort of musician groupies who offered to help manage things and market things, and just figure out how to code along the way. We all came out, we sort of just took over this house. We called it the Hero Mansion. It wasn't quite a mansion, but it was a house. Didn't have a pool like the Facebook movie, but it was very close to the, living the dream that we all imagined. And so the whole thing was like, let's just, code all day and night. We'll have just as much fun, of course, but we're going to work really hard and get this thing done by the end of the summer. That's it. If we don't launch by the end of the summer, there's no hope. So that's our deadline. So we basically had this like broken alpha version, and we put this whole thing together, and we launched our like working alpha in August of, I think it was 2012, I believe now, dating me. And then, I was like, a bunch of my friends who were part of the team were still in school, and I was like a senior. So I was like, well, I can just stay out here. I'm going to just live in the Valley, Silicon Valley, and try and raise some money. Networking with investors, go to events, just jump in and see what happens. Our team went remote basically after the summer. Everyone was in a different place, but we were still working on the product, fixing bugs, and we're like telling all of our friends and getting the first few hundred people on there. And, we started this sort of marketing campaign on the ground. I mean, I don't want to get into too much detail because I could tell the 2-hour version, but anyway, fast forward, we were able within a few weeks to get a meeting with Andy Hertzfeld, who's the co-creator of the Macintosh, with Steve Jobs, and he was in the Valley in Palo Alto, and basically just had a lunch meeting with him and walked around Palo Alto, and he decided to invest in the company as our first angel investor. And that was sort of the first like break we had. And so we're finally able to like continue working on this thing. And like, this is a real thing. We're living the dream of the Valley. So,
That's so cool.
Yeah. And then
It's
so
hard to come by real estate in San Francisco. So I'm happy to hear that you guys were able to put together a house and have an opportunity to build some of those things.
Yeah. I mean, the prices hadn't gotten insane. But how to, fast forward to Hedera real quick in 30 seconds, basically decided to move to Austin, Texas, because that's where the musicians were, South by Southwest. We did a bunch of stuff there. And we raised some more money with some local angels there. And we built up this whole marketplace with fiat and decided that we needed a way to actually, tokenize the marketplace with micropayments. And there's many more reasons that I've written about in my blog posts and whatnot. But essentially, we came across Hedera again through that the Secrets of Money video. That was how I found it.
That is everyone's origin story.
And then I was at the PlayStation Theater. The whole idea was like, I hope there's a way we can build a token on Hedera. And when they announced the smart contract service, we were like, okay, we're doing it. And that's how we got
a really cool origin story. I'm happy to hear there's the overlap between you and Jason. And it's funny to have you guys both on the live stream 2.5 years later now.
Yeah.
So we do have a bunch of questions, like really good questions people are putting in the chat. So I'm going to hop over to those really quickly, and then we're going to circle back to some of the conversations about what these guys are up to, what they're building. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. This first one I'm going to throw to Jason here. What are some of the biggest commercial use cases of Hedera that you can envision? What are you super excited about? What do you think is going to be the most impactful?
Commercial? Okay.
Yeah. Commercial, enterprise, whatever you think.
Yeah, I'm kind of an in the weeds kind of guy, so I haven't really thought about the opportunities set for, the .NET framework and Microsoft and Azure and that part of the ecosystem is pretty big. It does well with enterprises. Not all enterprises, and we know that a lot of enterprises use Java as well. But it's partly why I was attracted to this, because I see there's this part of the ecosystem that has potential too. So
for those that don't know, we'll circle back, but Jason builds the .NET SDK for Hedera Hashgraph, which is the context there and his wonderful background. But we'll circle back to talk more about that and the fun stuff that Jason builds.
Yeah, sometimes I think I'm a one-trick pony when I always talk about .NET, but I feel that in the spectrum of I'm going to take a wider lens on that if you don't mind, that the spectrum of like public ledgers. I mean, you have kind of the Bitcoin at one end of the spectrum, which is kind of really censorship resistant, unstoppable money. And then you have this ecosystem kind of next to it, which is Ethereum, which is smart contracts, and it still uses proof of work, but I know they're moving forward. And then you have Hedera, which really fills in a niche that is business friendly, because of the guidance. And it was a big reveal, to mention back at the Hedera, big reveal is that the governance and being cooperative with regulatory and all that makes it a safe place for businesses. So I think if you're an enterprise, you're going to be more attracted to Hedera, regardless of what your tech stack is, because it's just because it's taking a more measured approach. It's with the council in particular. It'll be interesting to see how this grows, and 20 years when the patent, is it 20 years for a patent to run out, and how big Hedera will Hedera be big enough that nobody can displace it by them. I actually think that will be the case. But
yeah,
sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that's great to hear. It's cool because Microsoft has this wonderful ecosystem around .NET, and there's so many people that are interested in building in that space. It's very much like a persona that people take on. Like if you are a .NET developer, like you're very much, it's kind of like being a web developer. It's like your developer identity. So it's really cool to, at least have you building tools that support that ecosystem, as well as thinking about all the kind of commercial applications that are built in that .NET environment. Just from our perspective, and you might have heard Nance say this on our last town hall, like we really see tokenization and data integrity being the two places that we're finding the most immediate product market fit and, commercial viability. But we'll see that change over time and see different ways that different organizations, different industries take those kind of two use case verticals to market. It's a really good question. I think for this next question that was asked in the chat, I'm going to throw it over to Pablo. What do you see as some of the biggest hurdles to mass adoption? You can define mass adoption however you'd like, whether that's everyone in the world having a cryptocurrency wallet on their phone, to it being used in some enterprise applications that no one ever sees. What do you think are some of the biggest hurdles there?
Tokenization and data integrity. No, but for real, I think to get mass adoption, people will worry a lot about placating the current guys, which is important. Don't get me wrong, it is very important. But if you only placate the current crypto bros, you're going to be stuck a bit like if Apple had placated all the nerds that are just soldering their own computers. It's fine. It works for now, but being able to build applications that enable a wider range of use cases, not just crypto specific, is important. Case in point, Fortmatic. You might have not heard of them, but they're a very popular user and password based Ethereum provider. They're a single sign-on system that allows someone to log in via their email or their phone number, and it allows them to have an Ethereum account without needing to fuss with private keys. And that's an important step. But very recently, they launched last year at ETH Denver 2019. And at ETH Denver 2020, they did a raise, I think over $1 million, which shows promise that Ethereum can gather enough investors. But now they're pivoting. And it shows that a mature system cannot just rely on just crypto. And so they've rebranded to something called the Magic.Link, which uses the same underlying technology, but now provides email links so that people don't have to worry about passwords. Now this allows them to still be the single sign-on system, but now everybody gets an Ethereum account. But now they're tapping into everybody rather than just Ethereum crypto guys. So I think for mass adoption, we're going to have a very...
I don't know what you mean by we're going to have a very...
Oh, sorry.
So we can improve voice assistance sometime soon.
Definitely. Let me put it in theater mode. Yeah, so where was I?
Fortmatic, mass adoption, magic links, all being an important part of that kind of cohesive puzzle.
Definitely. So for us to get mass adoption, we're going to need to solve an issue for us and then bring it out to the people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If people can't use it, if they don't understand how it works, or if it's, orders of magnitude worse than existing systems, it's going to be really hard to bring it to mass markets. And I think those examples of Fortmatic and magic links are, a great example of some of the drastic improvements that are available in the market now that weren't there during the 2017 craze, right? Like it's a night and day difference between that user experience. So last kind of lightning round of questions from the chat here before we get back into all the cool things that you're building. And this one's for Andrew. Kind of building on what Jason was talking about, someone said that their question about commercial usage was mostly related to how it could be used in specific industries. They cite banking, financial services, and 2NFM is building something, specifically improving the world of music streaming, music listening, music distribution. Could you talk a little bit about how you see Hedera improving that kind of industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like most use cases with smart contracts, cryptocurrency, and whatnot are enterprise related, and in many cases are better with something like HCS and permission ledgers. But also there's other decentralized enterprise use cases, especially when you have consortiums of large companies that do similar things that need to share data. But I think there's the most under-addressed area of crypto and decentralized or distributed computing at large is the consumer side of things. And because we have 7 billion people plus whatever it is, everyone is essentially a node and is creating data. And so I think that you get the most benefits of decentralization when you're utilizing a consumer type of DApp or decentralized application, because that's what's the users are who's actually decentralized. They're by definition decentralized. So it's not like you have 2 or 3 different parties who are communicating in a business sense. Here you have millions of people, if not hundreds of millions across the globe, all communicating, interacting. That's where that's where you really get the gains, I believe, through decentralization. And so the approach we took is a tokenization model, which would allow us to basically build our own music economy, where we have a global currency specifically for music streaming and other music related things that would allow us to create incentives and be able to give people rewards for helping curate and artists for having their music streamed and basically create a new business model around consumption where the minimum ticket price doesn't have to be $5 or $10, where the minimum ticket price could be a fraction of a penny. It could be 1 second of music, basically just actual real time. And we can chop it up into minuscule little pieces, pockets of value, and exchange crypto with minuscule amounts, all automatically under the hood based on that. And I see that as a really exciting future. It's not just music, it's publishing, whether you're reading an article of a newspaper, it's movies, it's virtually every form of media, even social media.
And focusing, specifically on Tune just for another second here, I think it currently takes, months, if not years, for artists to receive those distributions. And, with Tune, it's almost instantaneous, right?
Yeah, so the music industry is very broken for many reasons in many different ways. One of which is the fact that the way streaming works, which is a broken business model, is when you're paying your $10 a month to Spotify, that goes directly to Spotify first. Then Spotify has label deals with the 3 major labels, a sort of blanket deal. They pay 70, if not 75% of their revenue. So of that $10, $7 is going directly to the big 3. And then the big 3 have individual deals with artists, some of which where the artist only gets 10%, 15%, generally not more than 20. And in exchange for that label, the publisher, is doing marketing and funding their tours and whatnot, and maybe helping produce things. But that's the publishing rights model and the master. It gets really complicated. I'll just simplify it. Let's just imagine there's one rights holder here. And then the artist, there's mechanical royalties and master rights, and there's many ways that they can get paid, but it's so complicated and it goes through so many hands that at the end of the day, it can take up to 2 to 2.5 years to actually get paid. And you're left with sometimes less than 10% of what came in for your music, which is when it started was half a penny per play. Now it's a tenth of half of a penny per play 2 years late. So it's just not a way for artists to make a living at all. And that's why they've resorted to tours and merchandise and other things, which is also now with COVID becoming a huge problem since people can't tour. So we're trying to fix the broken streaming model with micropayments.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute there. That makes a lot of sense though. And it's definitely one of the applications that myself and others in the community were always super excited about it. So really excited for what's coming in the future. I know we're working on a lot of things around tokenization with Tune and ways to improve that experience. So really looking forward to that. But so let's dive back into some of these specific questions so people can get to know you a little bit more, know the people that are on the live stream, know what they can talk to you about. Jason, we know that you're building the .NET SDK for Hedera. Could you talk a little bit about your inspiration, why you thought that was exciting or something worth your time? And what is the .NET SDK for some of our less technical audience members?
Okay, well, I'll start with that. So the .NET SDK is more of a library that provides access to the Hedera Gossip Network. I'm going to say the Gossip Network and some of and portions of the Miranode network that packages it into a nice RPC-like .NET-ish way of communicating with the bigger network, just like with the Java SDK and the JavaScript SDK, that there are Java-isms and JavaScript-isms and .NET-isms of how you approach solving problems and how you approach the ways you present APIs to computers, to your client software. So it's just another one of the tool set that's available. What got me into it, I guess, I'll admit I think I was a little frustrated one day because something changed. I was gonna pull down the Java SDK and something, I don't know, the POM was something with the POM is like, and it's like, even though I do a little bit of Java at my day job, ironically, This is like, how hard could it be? And then I just started searching up gRPC in .NET, and they'll notice that .NET 3 had really good support for it. And so the question in my mind was, how hard could this be? And it turns out it wasn't that hard. And then it just snowballed from there. It just turned out to be easy. And fortunately for me, I had the benefit of starting this back when the network was really throttled, which was a really, really good bunch of growing pains, because then it forced me to look at ways of making that the algorithms that kind of straddle you go send a message, you wait for the result and do that, to make it robust enough that if the network were under load or under attack and not able to perform at its highest peak capacity, that I still wouldn't like throw random errors all over the place. So that was a great experience right back. I can't remember. Did I start it right after open access, or was it just before open access? I can't quite
It was
remember.
right around there. Like I remember it being one of the first supported SDKs for sure.
So and so it's had some growing pains, which are really good, making some good foundations from the algorithm part of view. So it's trying to be as easy. For those that are familiar with .NET, we have the async model. So async task, do something, and it does hide a lot from the communication details that you might have to do if you were writing your own by scratch. Because I'll spare us in the weeds and the details, but it tries to approach it as simple so that if you are just writing a really simple program, it's just like transfer from to amount. That's all you have to do. But it has an overload. Transfer these 5 to that person, then 20 to that, and all over. And these 7 people have to sign it. So it can do that as well.
That's really cool. We're always incredibly excited about not only, consumer applications like TuneFM, but also SDKs, developer tools, those building blocks that actually make it easy for other people to go and build cool things. Have you always been interested in building SDKs? Was this like a new adventure for you? Like, what was kind of the inspiration there, other than being so early to our community that you just wanted to build something that worked?
Well, I think the latter was part of it too. I like it. It's for the way my brain thinks, likes to solve complex problems. It's like a puzzle. I actually do like doing API kind of work. When I'm been on larger enterprise teams and had the luxury of having specializations, I kind of go into that middle layer. And I don't like doing the database, don't like doing the UI. Actually, I do like doing the UI, but I'm not all that great at it sometimes. So I kind of squeeze into that artistic, let's paint a picture in API. That's the easiest, most fun thing, to do. So I that's kind of a calling. So the opportunity was there, and I was very happy to pounce on it.
That's really cool. I really, personally appreciate all the work that you've done and put into that. It's amazing that one person alone can build a tool that opens up the opportunity for the entire .NET community and ecosystem to have, onboarded to Hedera within a few minutes, rather than having to learn a new language or change up their infrastructure. So big shout out to you for doing that.
Thank you. Thanks.
And another thing that's just another fun fact about you is, similar to Andrew, I believe that you're a musician. Do you play a little trumpet? Do you play any other instruments?
I pretty much play trumpet. I do sing in my church choir. I have the I don't think I've told anybody out in the wild that I do often do arrangements for our musicians in our church choir, which has kind of been on hold for the last year.
Yeah.
Our church has some wonderful young musicians, and it's fun seeing them grow up and challenging them, and we've done some really cool things. Our choir, for example, when I'm of the Catholic faith, and we were actually played trumpet at the papal mass. I wasn't in the choir, but yeah, I got to play as a part of our choir. We got to do Mi Alma, which was a really fun Latin piece we got to play.
That's awesome. So I find some of the best programmers in the world that I know have that like artistic musician like background. So not all that surprised to hear that. So, Jason's building really cool dev tools for the .NET community on Hedera. If you have any questions about .NET, about building SDKs for Hedera, wonderful resource. Highly recommend you reach out to him. You can tell he's a very nice guy and is willing to help you out. But just to kick it over to Pablo here as well, Pablo builds a lot of developer tools for the community, whether it's the Composer browser extension, Hash SDK, which is a JavaScript library, or some of those online IDE and GUI, like graphic user interface tools that he talked about before. Pablo, could you give us like an overview of the tooling ecosystem, I guess, that Hashing Systems builds and why people might find those valuable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can definitely jump to that. I think for us, or for me in particular, I started in web, in a little bit of PHP, but it was through WordPress and it was all JavaScript, which is just front end. So I've been a huge front end fan from the get-go of my programming days. And so what I wanted to do with Hashing Systems and Hedera was really bring development to the web developers. Because if you look at the developer divisions or categorizations, the majority of developers are web developers. They start in things like JavaScript. I mean, the main thing you hear is I code in HTML and CSS, which not necessarily the right way to say it, but yes, like that's where the majority of people will be on. So when I put together all these tools for Composer and Hash.js, which we'll explain in a little bit, our idea was to make it so you don't need virtual machines. You don't need servers to set up your Hedera account or set up a Hedera website. And yeah, that's the main idea. There's a shortage of blockchain developers, and there will be for the time being for at least a few years. And the majority of our developers will transition to blockchain development, and there's no time for them to start from scratch. And that's where we come in with Hash.js. Now, Hash.js is just an abstraction of the Hedera SDK. It simplifies all the functions. For example, when you deploy a smart contract, you need to, or whenever you deploy any transaction, you need to sign it, but you also need to compose it properly. And so all that process is abstracted away, and all you have to do is say, send money or deploy contract or upload file or retrieve file, etc. It simplifies the process to sending a transaction to Hedera directly from the web browser. Now, one of the connections that we created was a connection to Composer. Composer simply looks at those function calls and receives them, signs it, and spits back the response. So now any website could interact through Hash.js with any Hash.js enabled connection. So you could theoretically connect Hash.js with your own private key in the browser if you wanted to, although I would not recommend it. Or you use Composer, where the website will never access your private keys. So that level of sandboxing is provided by this abstraction. So now you don't need to worry if the website coded some dumb analytic system that suddenly retrieves all your private keys because, well, they accidentally logged it. Or other issues like that, which I'm not sure they've been accounted for in other websites. I'm not going to name names, but there's some websites where you can paste your private keys, which should not be promoted.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Similarly to Jason, like I feel like these developer tools are like the core building blocks that will enable people to not only build cooler things, but build them quicker with the likes of Composer, build them more secure, more decentralized. So taking full advantage of the value proposition of blockchains and things like Hedera, where you actually hold your keys, you're responsible for your own money, your own data that you're putting on chain. So, we really appreciate everything that you've done for the community. You were first in trying to put out some of these developer tools. And if anyone's building websites or web apps or progressive web apps or anything in the JavaScript ecosystem, they're probably going to be looking at using something like Composer or using Composer. So I really see those as, the fundamental tools for enabling other developers, which is really cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Andrew, this next question is for you. You talked about TuneFM, how it's improving the music streaming industry, how it's helping not only content consumers, but also content creators. Outside of that world, outside of music streaming and micropayments, what is something that you would love to see built on Hedera? Like, and if there was like another industry or another application, what would you be like, oh, this would be really cool if I could use it?
Like a consumer use case on Hedera?
Whatever use case you personally think would be cool to use, right? It doesn't have to be, we asked earlier what would be the most impactful or most, commercially adoptable, but like, what would
Yeah.
you like to see built on Hedera?
Well, I mean, I know the most popular Ethereum dApps are gambling dApps. Not to say like casino type of things.
Hey, if
I
you
think
want to
that would be
gamble,
fun.
Andrew, you can go ahead and admit it. You can say that you want like.
I mean, I wouldn't mind playing poker with H-bar. Just saying. Okay, blackjack or something.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
It's probably not like the best answer. It's just the first thing that came to mind, that popped up, came to mind. But I mean, I think gaming is a really great use case. Any sort of like game where you have, multiplayer type stuff, I think could be an interesting thing. I mean, I'm not a big gamer, so that's probably not the best thing either. So,
It's okay. I totally put you on the spot there.
I'll stick with the poker.
That is fun. If anyone does build a poker with HBAR on Hedera, hit up Andrew. You have your first beta tester right here. You can take his money or his cryptocurrency.
Maybe even an exchange would be nice,
I totally agree. Just to keep things going here, if you have questions about anything we've talked about or about any of these guys specifically, please keep putting them in the YouTube chat. But there are a few other kind of important things that I would like to get through before we dive into those. Pablo, for anyone who's new to Hedera, like you don't know what it is, or you know what it is but haven't gotten started, what advice would you have for someone who's, kicking the tires or curious where to get started?
I think the majority of people that have been building today are non-technical, which I would highly recommend as a rule of thumb to not spend all your money on developers right away, because a lot of standards are still being implemented. So it's very important that you don't set up something that might need to be changed soon, which is where things like Hash.js really shine, because, if we had not built it, we would have to recode half of our applications about 5 or 6 times. But because we have Hash.js, we only did it once in Hash.js, and the applications never needed to change because, they follow the same standard. So I think that's a key thing. But other than that, I would say looking at the market, don't just put blockchain on it. Don't just say it's Hashgraph, because it's like saying cloud. Does it really matter? We want to bring integrity, as you said. We want to bring tokenization. Right now we have integrity. In the future, we will have tokenization. So let's build with systems that require integrity, systems that potentially require verification. The way I like to sell Hedera to enterprise users is to look at Hedera as a certified mail. So anywhere where you need physical certified mail to be sent between 2 parties, try using Hedera and see how the users react. If they can get a verification that is backed by IBM, Google, or other corporations, does that matter to them? Can you sell that idea of integrity for the data that you provided? Because at some point, somebody will want to verify, and you can say, well, it was deposited, or it was minted, or it was verified, it was validated by Hedera, and you can go check using some tool here. So I think it's a very important step in when you're building on Hedera. You wanna look at how does it shine, and how can you make it shine with Hedera, because you can't say, I'm building an app, it has Hedera on it. Building a social network, it has Hedera on it. What does it mean? Does it matter if you're building a social network and it has Hedera? Or does the value transfer between users matter? Does the verification of the users matter? So I think a lot of people don't take a step back and think, okay, if I took Hedera out, if I took blockchain out, would people invest? I remember in 2017 and even through 2018, there was a project that raised about $8 million for a large-scale aquarium, outdoor aquarium. Great, but again, do people need it? And I think that's those are questions that we gotta ask ourselves when we're starting to build on Hedera.
Totally agree that it's really important to understand use case, product market fit, where it actually provides value to your business, to your end users, whoever that is, before diving in and just saying, we need blockchain, we need Hedera, or we need some type of tokenization, whatever that may be, and really fundamentally understanding the value proposition and making sure that that is what kind of shines or comes through with your use case. Before you start writing code, before you hire developers, before all of those things. So that is definitely great advice.
I'm just seeing the Hedera, the YouTube chat. So I guess I know what I'm going to be dressing up for Halloween.
What are you dressing up for Halloween?
Edward Scissorhands.
Paul reminds me of Edward Scissorhands. All right, shout out to Rose Green. Thanks for joining the live stream and making sure that Pablo isn't questioning what he's going to be for Halloween.
Totally. Although they say it's canceled, but I hope it's.
I have no idea what people are going to do. It's got to be rough to have young children and not know if they're going to be able to get candy or what's going on. But we'll focus on Hedera. I don't have any young children. I'm going to leave a bowl of candy outside and see what happens. Someone's going to come steal it all, but that's fine with me. Jason, this next question is for you. What do you think the future looks like for Hedera? Like, I know it's a broad question. You can talk about developer tools. You can talk about what it manifests as for developers, or you can talk to some, larger vision for how the market will mature over time. But what do you think the future looks like when you think 2-5 years out?
2 to 5 years out.
Trying to frame it for you so you're not as overwhelmed with the vagueness of the question. So
I see, Hedera right now. I mean, we are not even really 1.0 yet. And if you have spare time and go look at the roadmap and then start looking, if you're the techie type and want to look at the code, the foundations that we're building right now are pretty eye-opening and exciting. I think we have, we're not even, to put a building analogy on it, we're still putting the footers in. The foundation of the basement is partially built, but there's some major things that are around the corner if you look at the roadmap, that are going to be huge. So I don't think it's hard to predict how big this could grow. I think from a technical implementation and utilization, there's a lot of work to do. I personally think one of our things that will help us grow in the future may be more on-ramps, meaning integrations with as businesses integrate with their processes and make them public, trusted agent kind of thing, and more maybe on-ramps. Right now, if you want to acquire HBAR in the United States, it's not that easy to do it. And I feel for anybody who lives in New York. Oh, I'm so sorry. I think forget which was that Telegram or Discord we had. There was a discussion on that. More opportunity, there's, as the API gets fleshed out and major services come online, I think it will snowball in that you'll see these degrees of freedom combine, and the tokenization that's coming down the road combined with HCS and integrations with like Fabric, because that's really, I think that's a really cool thing. to use the Fabric, although it's a little bit beyond my ability to go up on that learning curve. Otherwise, I'd probably be talking about that today. I think partially that concept of having partially trusted parties, particularly businesses and consumers, to be able to communicate, talk, and do business in a arbitrary, well, not an arbitrary, but in a neutral forum is really compelling. And it's hard to predict what we're going to have. I mean, the streaming service is a really good example of just totally rethinking the problem. I was part of shows on sale at the hackathon, and that was kind of like a competitor to StubHub and whatnot, where the people who will can get a little bit better deal in an open trading kind of market. So there's lots of opportunity, and I haven't even really thought about the huge enterprise opportunities yet. I mean,
yeah, it's definitely a paradigm shifting technology, a paradigm shifting way to build systems and have direct to customer, direct to consumer, direct to business types of engagements. And it's, incredibly hard to predict what's going to happen. I totally agree with you there. But thinking in terms of, we really like to think that we're in the first inning, or we're still in the warm-ups of what is a very, very long game. And so, to your point, building out those integrations, making it easier to buy HBAR, making it easier down the road to stake HBAR, making it easier for developers to get onboarded and build different things with different tools, whether that's the .NET SDK or the hashing system suite of tools, are really the great things to be focusing on this early in the game that will set us up for the success of what's to come, because no one knows what's coming in inning 3 or 7 or 9, and it's surely going to be a fun thing to be a part of. Andrew, what has you most excited about the future of Hedera? It doesn't have to just be about TuneFM, but you can talk about TuneFM if you would like. Totally. What are you most excited about?
Sure. Well, I said enough about TuneFM, but I'm probably most excited for, in the near future, the next governing council members. I feel like we're due for a big announcement. I don't know, but I feel like enough time has passed that something's going to drop. It's just, you feel it in the air. But so I think that could be interesting. I think
a lot of people agree with you there, that they're waiting for the next council announcement, especially if you look at Telegram and the HBAR community.
Yeah, I really do want to see an ecosystem of dApps. I don't want to be like the only one of half a dozen or whatever. I want to be one of hundreds, if not thousands. So I do want to see that. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for more improvements around tokenization, because that's what we're involved with. I'm excited for more wallets and exchange integrations, and mostly that HBAR and Hedera becomes a household name, just like Google or Microsoft is. That I feel like once that is achieved, then we'll all be in a very good place.
Well said. I couldn't agree more. I think if there's anyone who's like incredibly looking forward to being able to talk about new council members and put out press releases, it's definitely us on the team, because we feel it. And we know how much the community wants to see new members and use cases come on board. And the goal is definitely for Hedera to become not only a 100-year company, but like you said, a household brand name that people respect and trust, on par with those people who sit on our council. So that was well said, Andrew. Thank you.
Thanks.
Pablo, what are you most excited about? What are you looking forward to that you can publicly talk about?
My birthday's coming up in December, so turning
Okay,
26.
Okay,
Yeah.
Congratulations. You'll have to give me your address. We can send you a little swag pack and get you one of these cool hats.
Yeah, that'll be good. I got my Product Hunt shirt.
Oh, the Golden Kitty even. Congratulations. It's an exclusive shirt.
Yeah. Still have yet to go visit over there. I need to go to LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to all these new systems and services that Hedera will be launching soon or providing, and all these standards that will allow us to really create more on the platform.
You have definitely been one of the most vocal and strong advocates for more standards, more specifications, ways that people in the community can work together and build less siloed applications, more composable services and things like that. So I definitely feel that from you, and very much looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing, composability, because it's what's making Ethereum really great right now. If I want to use an insurance solution with a token solution with a decentralized exchange solution, I can do that all from another solution that just packages them all together. But it's only possible because they speak the same language. They talk through the same standards, and you can set up those standards easily by following something called the application binary interface, which is built into Solidity. So I foresee us doing something like that with the HCS messages, but I'm awaiting for Hedera to make that choice, because I think that's important. That comes from the Hedera and not from the community, as is a strong decision that has to be done. What do you think, Andrew?
I think, well, we might have lost Cooper, but I think
I'm back. Don't worry too hard. My Wi-Fi does not like me tonight, so I apologize to you and everyone watching this if it's caused an issue. But hopefully it's okay. I completely agree, Pablo. Though the last thing I heard is the importance of composability, and I think that is really key to what makes this industry so exciting. And I hope that some of the ongoing efforts and the work that you do and Christian Holman do, and the other people that are working to create those standards are going to be implemented. The community runs with them. We can start building all these kind of composable systems and building blocks and plugging and playing them together. So I'm very excited about that future. I actually think that is almost all of the questions that I had for this chat. I see we have a few in the YouTube chat, so I'm going to run through those. We'll probably stick around for another 10 minutes maybe, and close this out. But thank you everyone who attended this MVP live stream and got to know these guys. If you are interested in ways that you can contact them or reach out to them, you can go to hedera.com/MVP. MVPs, and find links to their LinkedIn, their Twitter, their websites, and get in touch with them there and follow up and hear more about the cool things that they're doing on Hedera. So before I go into any of these YouTube questions, do any of you have questions for each other? Is there anything that, after this that you're like, you're dying to ask each other or have been wanting to ask each other and put someone on the spot?
I have a question for Pablo.
Let's do it.
In that, well, you have Composer, so you've got a major brand out there already for, as a wallet or a plugin kind of function. What do you see with the community? Well, there's issues with wallets right now with regards to seed phrases. That wasn't my question, but how interoperability? For example, I have the reference implementation for using .NET to make a website, and I'd absolutely love to not have to be able to integrate, say, Composer. As a community, how far do you think we are away from coming up with some sort of universal standard for, hey, I have this message, but I need you to sign it, and can you sign it and send it, or can you just sign it and give it back to me and I'll send it? Kind of that kind of. So we can do multi-party things and have ideas of ways that two people on two systems could sign something at the same time and send it through one system. Do you have anything cooking or ideas about that?
I have some ideas about it. I believe that we've solved one part of that two-part problem. So the issue is, how do you abstract signing and message building? And that issue of the message building has been solved by Hash.js, from which Composer came out. So Composer started and it was good. but we realized we needed a standard way to communicate with it. So that's where Hash.js came in. Now, Hash.js lives on its own, and it's a way to talk to any wallet. So if somebody were to run the same listeners, they could theoretically run their own version of Composer and call it Meta Composer. Whatever, it could run on, for example, a custom application running .NET inside a web browser or a dApp browser inside a mobile phone. Now, the question about multi-sig and requiring anything with multiple signatures, it would potentially require another function, some other mechanism. I think the biggest concern we've had has been a proper relayer. So being able to collect the signatures from multiple individuals while maintaining security. Because if you just provide a simple signing mechanism through an application, it's just unsafe. So for MetaMask, they add an arbitrary string called Ethereum signed message, : and then it signs that message. Well, we can't simply do that on Hedera because we need to be able to sign messages and sign them in a way that Hedera will accept them. So now we have to, as a wallet provider, create a standard to validate that message and make sure that it's not maliciously signing away my control. And so being able to solve that problem is going to be vital in order for us to create some sort of message relayer. So it's a multi-step problem that we could hopefully get a Hedera grant for, but I think that we're still ways away from getting Hedera to providing those types of grants. So I think the best route we got is writing a proposal or a GitHub issue or a Hedera improvement proposal and having the Hedera team pick it up.
Yeah, so you think that this is something the Hedera team versus community, it's like a consortium of wallet developers decided this is the way we want to do it versus saying, hey, Hedera, we really do need the spec.
Well, I mean, we could do that as a team, but how much would that cost?
I
think
will
that would be the biggest cost.
that multi-party signatures and better support to do some of those things is landing in version 2 of the SDKs that actually just got put into beta this week. So ways that you can sign a transaction, actually have the expiration of that transaction be further into the future, send it over an API request to another application, wallet, whatever, and have it signed by another party. So that is, at least if you aren't aware, that is something that's coming in version 2 of of our SDKs. But on the other hand, Pablo speaks to this really well. You need to have all the wallet developers agree and all those applications agree on ways to verify, show those transactions in the user interface in a standardized way so that people feel safe and actually know what they're countersigning. So totally interesting, but that was just my 2 cents on it, is that like we're trying to enable it from one end, but on the other, it's, you know, in my perspective, a little bit up to all the wallet developers to be like, yeah, that sounds good. This is what we need for our users, and to work on implementing some of those things. But just
would this API be a Hedera API?
Those are just functions available in the SDK. The actual transfer, or, you know, if I sign a message with my Java SDK, send it over to you, that would be an off-chain transaction, or, you know, exchange of information.
Okay.
So if I'm, you know, say using Composer, I sign a multi-party transfer that has, you know, a threshold signature. There would be a way that your SDK implementation can export that transaction more easily for someone else to countersign. But, you know, say sending it from Composer to Ivy Wallet wouldn't happen on chain. That would just be,
right. We would need to find a way to communicate.
That's where the community standards in my mind have to come in. But I do know that there's some ongoing efforts, you know, with Christian Holman and Walla Wallet and Ivy, about mobile deep linking, which is a little bit, you know, similar to some of these conversations, which is, you know, really exciting.
Yeah, we talked about either that or using QR codes. I think both of those are valid features. I think QR codes breed in from the idea of deep links, because a deep link is a URL.
Yeah.
But
at the end of the day, it's all just standardizing a couple APIs that everyone's like, yeah, that looks good. They get reviewed, enough people implement them, and, you know, we roll with it.
Totally. I think that's where waiting for Hedera to standardize the services that we should use. will be important, because we could build it for all the services, but I don't know if we want to build it for example, the smart contracts. Maybe we want to put our efforts into building more for HCS. But what does it mean to build on HCS? Is it just submitting messages, or will it be custom building a certain way to encode that message? Because, well,
it is a great
try
question.
dealing with strings.
And there's so much flexibility there.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are the right questions. And this is why I'm so happy that both of you and Andrew are all MVPs, because we can have these kind of tight knit, very specific and technically niche conversations about Hedera, which is why I'm so proud to have you guys on the live stream here. Someone's asking, what's the best or easiest way to create a Hedera account right now outside of the portal? Do you guys have any wallets that you would recommend to our viewers? Besides maybe Composer? I guess you can recommend Composer if you want, Pablo.
Personally, I would say paper.
Use paper.
Just make sure you have it on paper and you store it somewhere safe. That's the first thing. And also, don't ever forget to store your account ID. I've lost a couple of account IDs. I've had people message me about their account IDs, and it becomes a guessing game. You go to Dragon Glass and you try to search account create functions for the specific date, which you think it's August 13th or 14th. And then you try to get the account IDs and figure out, is any of the easiest to use depending on your use case. Crypto transfers, do you want to develop?
That makes sense. Jason, Andrew, do you guys have any wallets that you suggest? Maybe you're onboarding your family or your friends. What would you tell them to download?
Well, I've used Pablo's wallet, and I've used I've tried out the Telegram bot. Do we know if that's still running?
I believe it's still running.
That was a very, if you go to the Telegram, I think you can search in one of the channels for that. It made one very quickly too. You might want to tip it back a little bit more than it asks for, because of fees, network fees, but I had success with that. And if you know somebody, obviously you can just go and create some. Most people can have the ability, or well, actually, take that back down. Well, I could do it because of the API Hashgraph portal, since I have Windows, because it lets you create accounts. You can create them in Composer too, right? Manually. So
I
yeah,
believe Composer, Atomic Wallet, Bread. If you have Android, Walla Wallet, Ivy is available on Android as well. Those are coming to iOS soon. Those are all. I would go to hedera.com/wallets and try to test them out yourselves, and send a tiny amount of HBAR back and forth and feel it out and see which one you like the best, because they do all have different offerings and different support.
I guess my best advice is find a friend to do it for you.
Okay, that is good advice. So this is great. I don't have any other questions. I think that there's a few flown in through the chat here, but thank you everyone who watched this. Thanks you guys for joining and sharing your expertise, sharing about what you're building. And thank you everyone who joined in YouTube and asked us questions. If there's anything we didn't talk about that you want me or everyone else on the live stream to talk about, please leave them in the YouTube chat or in the comments section below, and we'll try to follow up with them and get answers. Just last thing here, Andrew, if they want to follow you, if they want to follow TuneFM, where should they go?
Sure. So tune.fm, of course, but at TuneFM official is our Twitter. Same handle for Facebook. And I'm Andrew at tune.fm if you want to email me, or just Andrew Antar on Twitter. Either way.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. Jason, where can people stay in touch with you?
Well, for Hashgraph, probably mostly in Discord. I'm known as BugBytes. I also am, BugBytes.com, so you can send me jason@BugBytes.com if you want to send an email. I don't do Twitter too much. I mostly lurk, but you can find me as Big BugBytes Inc. Somebody else has got BugBytes, and I'm going to have to see if I can buy it off of them someday.
Yeah, you need all the consistent handles. Well, thank you so much for your time. I highly recommend people go check out the .NET SDK, especially if you're already in that ecosystem and looking at the tooling. Jason has worked on it for quite a long time, and you know, we're very grateful for his contributions to the community. So thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
Pablo, where can people stay in touch with you and hashing systems?
So people can stay in touch with me through Twitter. I believe we have, yeah, it's at Hashing Systems. They can also go to It's Pablo, which you'll find. And I think right here. Oh, it's backwards. There we go. So just email me, you know, pablo@hashingsystems.com. Or if you go to hashingsystems.com, you can check out the chat feature. You'll send me a message directly to our Slack. And you can also check out our Medium, medium.com/hashingsystems. There's lots of reading material about Hedera. There's some outdated things like smart contracts, but you'll find that there's a lot of good tidbits about developing with Hedera. And that's how you spell hashing systems. And
perfect.
yeah,
I like the slide plug there. That was well executed and well timed. So yeah, thank you so much, Pablo, for joining the live stream. Thank you for everything that you've done for the community and all the cool dev tools. If you're building in the web ecosystem, want an online IDE, go check out Hashing Systems and everything that they've built. And also go check out TuneFM, you know, pay some artists in real time for their music and give back to the new creator economy and the future of streaming. So thank you, everyone. And that concludes our latest Hedera virtual meetup with our great MVPs. If you haven't seen the other ones, go back, find them on our YouTube. I think this is the 4th or 5th one that we've done now. So have a great day and happy Halloween to everyone that celebrates.
Thanks.